In today's video, we'll be going through the Transport Security Administration, also known as the TSA hiring process. I will provide you with some resources on where to find the best jobs, how to apply to TSA jobs, if you're looking to become a TSO, which is a Transportation Security Officer, as well as an LEO, which is a Law Enforcement Officer, or looking to get involved in the mission support or other executive roles. You're going to find out all that information here. I will also provide you with some of the career paths within the TSA once you join as either a TSO, an LEO, in mission support, or as an executive. Finally, I'll go through some sample questions and high converting answers you can use in your interview. You can even customize them with your own qualifications, experiences, and skills so you can land your dream job within the TSA. So today we'll be covering the general application process, the general interview process, and just the general clearance and evaluations. Then after that, we'll get into the more specific hiring processes, for example, the TSO, which is for the Transportation Security Officer, the Law Enforcement Officer, the Mission Support Executives. Then we'll get into the TSA, which is the Transportation Security Administration interview questions for all positions. So these answers can be used no matter what position you're interviewing for within the TSA. First, something important here. If you are looking to join the TSA as a full-time career and transition into other roles like law enforcement, mission support, or into an executive position, then starting as a Transportation Security Officer, TSO, is widely believed to be the best route. However, you can still apply directly to various positions within the TSA if you do have previous work experience, relevant educational experience, or intern experience. And finally, in this video, I'm going to explore the hiring process for the various different TSA roles, starting with the Transportation Security Officers, TSOs, then Law Enforcement Officers, also known as the LEO, then Mission Support, and finally, executive roles. First, just the general application process. Now, the reason I put this together is just to let you know, the process always starts with you heading to usajobs.gov and finding a job you are interested in. When you have found a job you are ready to apply to, you will have to always create an account on usajobs.gov. You will not be able to proceed without creating an account because the entire application process requires a user account where you can upload your personal information, resume, cover letter, and any other relevant information. So basically, what that means is no matter what job you're applying for, even if you are within the TSA already, you will require an account on usajobs.gov because this is where you have your profile created. So you will always have to create an account here. I will do a walkthrough later in this video. Something important. If you already have an account on usajobs.gov, then you can simply log into your account and continue to apply for the job. However, if you don't, you will have to create an account. So what are some of the basic requirements to work with the TSA? Well, here's a list of some of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, so you're more than welcome to pause the video and read through them. But just to let you know, age must be at least 18 years old. Education must have a high school diploma, GED or equivalent certification. Drug screening, which is number 5, must pass the pre-employment drug screening test. Availability, which is must be available to work irregular shifts, occasional overtime, and willing to travel for training. And look at some of the physical requirements. Depending on the specific role, you may need to meet certain physical demands, such as lifting, bending, and walking for extended periods. Take your time. You can pause this video and just read through them, but these are the fundamental basic requirements for you to start working in any position within the TSA. It doesn't matter if you're working as a TSO, an LEO, as someone in mission support, or even as an executive. To start at the foundation, you have to meet these basic requirements, okay? Important. Some jobs may have other specific requirements, which I will be covering in more detail later in this video. So just like I mentioned in my previous slide where I was talking about the basic requirements, those are the basic fundamental requirements. However, as you start to transition into other roles within the TSA, there may be other requirements which you will be able to find in the job description for that role, okay? The interview process. So if you are among the candidates who are referred to the hiring official, you may be contacted for an in-person or telephone interview. Certain positions require a structured interview as part of the candidate evaluation process. Now, as you will learn later in this video, there are additional assessments or a computer-based test depending on the position you have applied for within the TSA. For example, if you have applied for a law enforcement officer, which is also known as an LEO job with the TSA, you will be required to pass a psychological assessment, etc. So that's something important to keep in mind. I will be going into this a lot more further later in this video. Important, regardless of the position, if your online application is accepted, you will have an in-person or telephone interview as the first official interview with the hiring manager. So it doesn't matter what position you've applied for. If your application is accepted online, the first step is always going to be a quick screening in-person interview or telephone interview as the first official interview within the hiring process. Number 3, clearance and evaluations. At a minimum, you will have to pass the medical, drug, and background clearance. This does not matter what position you have applied for because the minimum you will be asked for is a complete medical and drug exam and a complete background check before you can even be considered to move on to the next round of the interview process, okay? If you fail any of the tests, your application will be terminated. In the next 4 to 5 sections, I will go deeper into the clearance and evaluation requirements for each job, but I just wanted to present this general baseline requirement to get started with the Transportation Security Administration, also known as the TSA, even at the very bottom. Number 4, the TSO hiring process. TSO stands for Transportation Security Officer. Summary: Transportation Security Officers are responsible for providing security and protection of travelers across all transportation sectors in a courteous and professional manner. Their duties also may extend to securing high-profile events, important figures, and/or anything that includes or impacts our transportation systems. Learn more about the Transportation Security Officer TSO role on the TSA Careers website. Alternative: Security Support Assistance, which is also known as a SSA. This falls under the same umbrella as a Transportation Security Officer TSA. Summary: SSAs assist Transportation Security Officers, which are TSOs, at airport checkpoints by performing various tasks that support the screening process, such as managing queues, assisting passengers, and moving baggage. They are an entry-level position with career growth opportunities and can be a stepping stone to becoming a TSO. Important: people choose to become an SSA because the hiring process is expedited, allowing them to start working sooner than TSOs. It's also a great way to get your foot in the door because a majority of the time, TSA will hire SSAs to move into a Transportation Security Officer's TSO role when there is an opening or requirement. Great, so I just want to hop in here and let you know that a Security Support Assistant, also known as an SSA, is an entry-level position which is one below a TSO, and it's an expedited route into becoming a TSO because the requirements are much less than that of becoming a TSO. As you'll learn later in this video, there are a few steps that are not required in the hiring process for a SSA that would be required for someone who has applied for a TSO position. Great, let's move on. Now here's the eligibility to become a TSO within the TSA. Number 1, a U.S. citizen or national. Number 2, 18 years of age or older. Number 3, high school diploma, GED, or equivalent certificate. Number 4, registered for selective service. Number 5, able to pass a federal drug screening, medical evaluation, and background investigation. Number 6, available to work shifts at odd hours, occasional overtime, and the ability to travel for training. Now, if you meet this eligibility, then you can proceed to step number 1. Step number 1, find the job opportunity. So head over to usajobs.gov and do a search for TSO or SSA if that's the route you want to take. When you have found the job you're interested in, click apply. You will be asked to create or log into the usajobs.gov before you can apply for the position. Now, here's a quick walkthrough of the process. So here we are on the home page of the federal hiring process for the TSA. If you want to come here on your own, you can type in jobs.tsa.gov. However, you will be redirected to the usajobs.gov even if you do a search from here. So for example, we can either do a search here and type in search, and over here you'll see multiple jobs that come in for a transportation security officer. Okay, and then once you click on the job, you will hit apply, and as you notice, you'll be redirected to the USA Jobs website right here. Or what you can actually do is, if you're on Google's homepage, you can head over to usajobs.gov, press enter, type in TSO. TSO will bring up multiple transport security officer jobs, Plattsburgh, New York, Grand Island, Nebraska. So these are all the locations. Now you can click into any one that you want to see. Read over the requirements. I highly do recommend that you do that, just so you get a better understanding of some of the requirements. Then once you're ready, you can also, before you actually click apply, you can also look at the open and closing dates right here. Okay, and then once you click apply, you have to just you must agree to the USA Jobs terms and conditions. Read through this, click agree, and here is the USA Jobs account creation. So if you have an existing account, you can log in. If you don't, you would have to click create an account, and you just proceed from there. Okay, great. Reminder, for TSO and SSA positions, a resume is not required. To skip submitting a resume, follow these steps. On the select resume page, choose build resume. The resume builder will appear. In the resume name field, enter placeholder text such as TSO application or blank. Then click next. So when the resume builder appears, in the resume name field, you have to either type one of the following: TSO application or blank, then click next. Under add work experience, select the checkbox next to I do not wish to provide work experience and click next. Do the same for I do not wish to provide education, then click the checkbox next to references available upon request and click finish. Once on the review package screen, click the checkbox next to I acknowledge that I have reviewed my resume and documents, then click save and continue. Then you can proceed with the remainder of the application. Great. So just a clarification, when you are applying for TSO or SSA position, you do not need to upload a resume for these roles, but you do need to complete the rest of the application process and submit the other required documents, okay? So just make sure you do follow this process when you are applying. Within the resume builder, make sure you follow exactly what you need to do so you don't have to submit a resume or work experience, and then you can proceed to the rest of the review package. Step number 2, schedule and complete a computer-based test. There are 2 versions of this test, and the one you will take depends on your testing location. You'll either have the legacy full version or the new short spatial version, with the short one being phased in across more airports over time. So the short version hasn't fully been integrated into the application process yet, so you may find some locations who are still offering the legacy version. Important, from my research, more people are being assessed using the newer version, but in this video I wanted to provide information on both versions so you understand how the assessment is changing. Let's look at the CBT, the computer-based testing, the legacy version. The traditional CBT, common at most airports, lasts about 2.5 hours and features 2 main sections. English proficiency test, which measures grammar, reading comprehension, and vocabulary, includes short passages followed by multiple choice questions, focuses on understanding TSA protocols, instructions, and workplace communication. The next section is X-ray object recognition test, which is image interpretation test. Simulates X-ray scanner images of carry-on luggage. Candidates must identify threat items, example guns, knives, explosives, in complex images. Objects are often rotated, layered, or partially hidden to stimulate real-world conditions. This section is considered the most challenging part of the test. Now, let's look at the computer-based testing TSO assessment battery tab test, which is actually the newer version and is the shorter version. This test is approximately 25 to 45 minutes. This version consists of 3 quick timed multiple choice parts. The first one is trail making, which is connect the dots. Numbers example is 1, 2, 3, letters A, B, C, and alternating 1A, 2B, etc. Number 2, image matching. View an image briefly, then pick the identical one from similar options. And finally, 2D to 3D shape folding. Match numbers on a 2D net to letters on the folded 3D shape. So here's a quick user experience about what people said about this. I check in with my 2 forms of ID and I put my electronics in a locker. Then I was directed to take a seat at a computer and shown the prompts to begin the exam. To my shock, nothing that I saw on any of the YouTube videos was on the test. The first part was number to letter matching in sequence. The second part was just matching pictures. The first 2 portions I just described were a piece of cake in my view. The last portion threw me off for a complete whirl. It was 2D, 3D foldable shapes portion where you had to match 2D foldable shapes to 3D shapes and via multiple choice selection match the corresponding letter on a particular line. There was maybe about 12 to 15 total shapes and I skipped 2 of them. I felt rushed because if I remember correctly, you were only given 20 minutes for that particular portion. So this particular user right here was actually given the new test, which is about, I believe, 35 to 45 minutes. User experience number 2, I applied for the TSO position 4 days before I took my CBT aptitude test and didn't prepare for it until the night before. I studied for about 2 to 3 hours in total for the CBT aptitude test. There will be 3 parts to it. The first part will be connecting the dots, numbers in sequential order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then letters in sequential order, A, B, C, and then letters and numbers in sequential order, A, 1, 2, B, so on and so forth. Second part will be image matching, where they will give you an image up top and 5 images below, and you have to pick which image matches the one up top. Third part was the hardest. It's shapes folding. They give you a 2D shape unfolded with dotted lines and 5 numbers along the edges, and then a 3D shape next to it with 5 to 8 letters along the edges, and you will have to match the numbers from the 2D shape to the letters on the 3D shape. Step number 3, the tentative job offer. Candidates will receive a tentative offer and once accepted, sign additional release forms. I have read that after the tentative job offer, you are still 6 to 7 months away from the final job offer from the TSA. Let's look at a user experience about this step of the hiring process. You're nowhere near done. You have to interview, do fingerprints, go through a background investigation, medical exam, then you get a final offer. You'll spend a few weeks to a month learning phase 1 at your airport. Then you'll be sent to FLETC, which I believe is a training camp in Vegas or Georgia for 3 weeks for phase 2. Then you'll go back for months of on-the-job training. Tentative job offer experience number 2. I applied on 12/26 and still waiting. My timeline, 12/26 applied and got tentative offer. 12/28 took CBT, filled out all the forms by January the 4th. On February the 28th, I got called to set of airport assessment. I believe that means for a set of airport assessment. Airport assessment was on March 20th. And then on March 22nd, scheduled medical. April 22nd, medical. Passed medical on April 26th. Got my forms returned for fixing on May 1st and submitted them back the same day. Now waiting for background check to go through. On average, takes 6 to 12 months to get hired. I'm currently on month 5. So this was in quotation marks. So I didn't want to change any of the writing. So there are some mistakes in the spelling here. From this experience, I'm hoping that you get a good idea of what they went through. It is word for word. I didn't want to change anything because it is a testimonial and review from somebody. Step number 4, the airport assessment. The candidate will need to complete a panel structured interview to determine if they possess the competencies required for the TSO, Transportation Security Officer position. The airport assessment, also known as the AA, is a standardized interview and evaluation for TSA applicants who've passed a preliminary test CBT, and received a contingent offer. It typically includes a virtual or in-person panel interview with 2 to 6 TSA agents or supervisors, and behavioral questions evaluated using the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. So that's what STAR stands for: situation, task, action, and result. After the airport assessment, you will have some additional steps like identity verification, color vision test, Farnsworth D15, fingerprinting, and receipt of medical packet. Here are the questions which will be asked during the airport assessment interview. So from my research, I was able to gather these exact questions that will be asked during the airport assessment interview. Now, I'm not going to read through them all, so you can pause the video and just go through them. I will provide an answer to all of them in my hiring guide, which I will provide a link for below this video, and I'll answer some of them towards the end of this video, starting with how to answer each one and then provide you a sample answer. So just number 1, tell us about a time you worked as part of a team to solve a difficult problem. Number 5, describe a time you had to communicate bad or unexpected news. How did you handle it? Number 10, tell us about a time you followed a procedure precisely to avoid errors. Number 14, have you ever had to report a coworker's mistake or misconduct? How did you handle it? Okay, so these are just some of the questions. In the guide, I've actually included about 3 to 4 more. Okay, so that's something for you to definitely download and take a look at. I will provide a link for you towards the end of this video, and I've also provided a link at the bottom of this video in the description. So airport assessment, user experience number 1. Man, that was nerve-wracking, but yeah, I just finished my airport assessment. Mine was virtual and it was a panel interview with 2 TSA agents. I'm assuming supervisors, both taking turns asking me a total of 4 to 5 questions. They are basically situational, what would you do kind of questions. I was told at the end that I should get an email within 3 days if I'm to be moving forward with the process. The TSA agents that did my interview were super chill and extremely nice. Don't people that fail get their emails, or aren't they told right away? Fingers crossed until the next email comes through, I guess. Here's user experience number 2. I did my airport assessment not too long ago, and I'm afraid I didn't do well enough to pass. The interviewers were very nice and courteous, and I answered their questions as thoroughly as I could, but my nervousness is what got me, because I start forgetting what to say. I tried to sound as confident as I could, made sure to keep a good posture and look presentable. I also incorporated past experiences, but I would mix them up a bit because of how nervous I would get mid-reply. I'm just hoping for the best. If I get a pass, it will be a blessing. But at this point, I'm afraid I didn't do well enough, no matter how hard I tried to keep myself together. User experience number 3 about the airport assessment. Did you do your AA in person or virtual? I had a different experience where I found out I passed the interview the same afternoon I was interviewed. This was back in January 2024. As with all of your experiences of the STAR method going out the window after the first question, I had a similar experience, so I think as long as you had some confidence in your interview, you will pass. Don't quote me on that. From a lot of the experiences that I did read, that using the STAR method in this interview is probably the most important thing, because that allows you to structure your answer where you're looking at the situation and then the task and then the action you took and then the result. So I would highly recommend that you do use the STAR method, because that will allow you to structure your answer correctly and at least use a process when answering these questions, which is very important, okay? Step number 5, medical evaluation and federal drug screening. The medical evaluation includes but is not limited to a physical exam, color vision test, distant vision test, and hearing exam. During the federal drug test, your urine sample cannot test positive for illegal drugs, including marijuana. There is a lot of information covered about the medical evaluation, so I have provided a link to the official TSA medical requirements PDF in the description below this video. User experience number 1, I'll give it to you straight. When you are given the date to do your medical, this is when you must P-test. Fail, no redo, wait 6 months to reapply. So when you are given the date to do your medical, this is the day this person actually did their P-test. And if you fail, and you have to wait another 6 months before you reapply. User experience number 2, super easy stuff. They make you pee in the bathroom. Do not flush the toilet. There was no sink in my bathroom. Had to wash my hands outside of the bathroom. They do all that to make sure it's your pee you're using and no one else's. I failed my vision test, appealed it with my eye doctor, and passed that part. Now just waiting for my background check to be completed. Only been waiting for about a week. Everything takes time with this process, I've noticed. Great, now let's look at step number 6, which is the background check. During this process, you will be required to complete the following. Complete an electronic SF-86 National Security Questionnaire, schedule and complete fingerprinting appointment, complete a credit and criminal history record check. You can find a link to the credit and criminal history record guide below this video. In this guide, you will get a complete breakdown of the requirements. Now, just to let you know, all the links I've also included in my hiring guide, which you can download below. I have left the link for that. And I will also provide a link to that guide at the end of this video. Step number 7, the ready pool. After completing all required steps, candidate enters the ready pool and is eligible to receive a final job offer based on an airport's hiring needs. User experience number 1. I was in the ready pool for about 7 months, late December 2022, and just got my call this week for DCA. Get comfy and don't put a notice in until they give you the call if you're working. Consider finding something part-time in the meanwhile if you aren't. Best of luck. User experience number 2. I was placed in the ready pool on April 28th and entered final job offer stage on May 26th. Since then, and haven't been contacted for a job yet. 2 months of waiting and nothing yet. It's a waiting game for sure. It's hard when you're anticipating a call. And user experience number 3. You are one step away from being hired. Be patient and prepare for an extensive weeks of training on and off the airport. Depending on the needs of the airport you have applied to, you may be waiting up to 6 months. I waited 2 months after being told I was in the ready pool. Congratulations, and remember to be your very best TSO officer when hired. Take all the positive and tune out the negatives. Don't stop learning and be the change that the TSO wants us to be. Now here's 4A, the SSA hiring process. I just want to quickly go through this. Step number 1, find the job opportunity. Step number 2, create the usajobs.gov profile and submit the required information. Step number 3, candidate will receive a tentative offer and once accepted, sign additional release forms. Step number 4, pre-hire background check, DHS forms, fingerprint background check. Step number 5, after completing all required steps, candidate enters the ready pool and is eligible to receive a final job offer commensurate with an airport's hiring needs. Around this time, you'll also have to complete the E86 forms, which is the national security forms. Important. As you can see, this is a fast-track method to get into the TSA, TSO. Unlike the TSO position, which is the Transportation Security Officer position, the SSA don't have a CBT test, airport assessment, full medical evaluation, and drug screening. So here are some of the TSO career paths. So Security Support Assistant SSA. This is one level below the TSO. However, if you're trying to get your foot in the door and begin a career within the TSA, it's a great way to get in, okay? So SSAs assist transportation security officers, which are TSOs, at checkpoints to move passengers through efficiently, maintaining order, and subsequently enhancing the nation's transportation systems. Next comes the transportation security officer, so that's a TSO. TSOs are on the front lines of the transportation security and are one of the most important roles at TSA. TSO knowledge helps inform decisions made at numerous levels of the agency. Then after, you can transition into a lead transportation security officer, which is an LTSO. LTSOs identify, distribute, and balance workloads and tasks among employees. They act as team leads and oversee certified TSOs and SSAs, in addition to some trainee and apprentice level TSOs. Then comes the Supervisory Transportation Security Officer, which is an STSO. They're responsible for mitigating actual and potential threats against civil aviation and other transportation modes. Then would come a Transportation Security Manager, TSM. They are in charge of managing screening checkpoints and act as first-line supervisors for the organization. And then Assistant Federal Security Director, Screening Operations, AFSD-S. They serve as the principal advisors for the Federal Security Directors, FSDs, on all operational matters. They develop, plan, coordinate, and implement policies that support screening operations customer service, and stakeholder programs. Now here's something important. As you transition through the different TSO roles, you will gain experience and have the opportunity to apply to different roles within the TSA. For example, within the TSA law enforcement, LEO, you can also apply within mission support and other executive positions. So here's a user experience. Started as a part-time TSO, full-time TSO, LTSO, MSTI, ESTI, and now K9 handler, all in 6 years. So user experience number 2, I started my journey at TSA as a frontline TSO, and within 6 years advanced to lead and then TSA instructor roles, MSTI, ESTI. Then experience gave me a springboard into becoming a K9 handler, thanks to the internal promotion paths that value both experience and training. After 3 years as a TSO, I qualified for Federal Air Marshal, and leveraging TSA's tuition benefits, I'm now pursuing a federal investigator role. Like many peers, I'm also transitioning into CBP at a higher GS-9 level. The GS-9 level means the pay grade level. The blend of screening discipline, procedural rigor, and training opportunities at TSA made these leaps possible. And user experience number 3. As a TSO, I knew the job wasn't my final destination, but it was the perfect foundation. I spent 3 years sharpening my attention to threat patterns and advanced screening protocols. During that time, I also tapped into TSA's education benefits to complete my degree. Thanks to my experience, I was eligible to apply for Federal Air Marshal, my first choice in federal law enforcement. TSA wasn't just a job, it was my launch pad. Great. Number 5, let's look at the law enforcement LEO hiring process. Now, before I do continue, if you are enjoying this video, don't forget to give me a super thanks by hitting the thanks button below. By supporting my channel, you do allow me to take the time to research and put together these valuable videos for you, which can help you land your dream job within the TSA. All right, so if you're enjoying this video, hit the super thanks button below and support my channel. I want to thank you in advance. So here's a summary. A TSA law enforcement agent, also known as a Transportation Security Officer, TSO, with law enforcement authority, or a Federal Air Marshal, helps protect transportation systems by identifying and responding to security threats, conducting surveillance, and working closely with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. Their duties can include screening passengers, investigating suspicious activity, and ensuring compliance with federal laws and TSA regulations. Great, let's look at the eligibility to become a law enforcement LEO within the TSA. You can pause and go over these one by one, but I will read them out to you. Number 1, must be a U.S. citizen or U.S. national. Number 2, favorable background investigation required. Number 3, selective service registration required. Number 4, age must be 21 to 36 years old. Waivers for veterans and prior federal law enforcement. Polygraph exam. Must pass law enforcement polygraph at applicant's expense, held in New Jersey or DC area. Physical ability. Must pass physical exam and meet fitness standards for law enforcement. And finally, number 7, medical clearance. Must pass and maintain medical standards. Now, if you do meet the eligibility, then you can proceed to step number 1. Step number 1, application and proctored assessment FAB test. Apply at USA Jobs or attend an expedited hiring event which has a faster timeline. If you are selected to proceed, you'll receive an invitation to take the Federal Air Marshal Assessment Battery, which is a cognitive aptitude test. This test is approximately 2 to 3 hours. So it's logic-based reasoning. This tests your ability to read and evaluate complex information, draw conclusions, and apply logical thinking in high-stakes scenarios. It's also situational judgment. You'll be presented with real-world scenarios involving conflict resolution, public safety, and team dynamics, and you'll need to choose the most appropriate response. And finally, you'll be tested on your writing skills. This section evaluates grammar, clarity, and the ability to produce concise, professional reports, which are essential for federal law enforcement roles. So here's a testimonial from someone. I took the Federal Air Marshal Assessment Battery recently. It felt like a college-level English composition exam. Lots of grammar, vocabulary, reading comprehension, and memory-based questions. There was a logical reasoning section too, but no trickery, just standard aptitude tests. With solid English skills and familiarity with these types of questions, I felt well prepared. Here's user experience number 2. Right after I passed the FAB, I got an email inviting me to my field office assessment. They break it into 3 stages that day: a panel-style behavioral interview, immediately followed by the physical fitness test, which is pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, and a 1.5-mile run, and then a final interview with the special agent in charge. It was a full-day process, but passing the FAB was the key to moving forward. So step number 2 to become a law enforcement officer and LEO within the TSA is the FOA, Field Office Assessment, which is structured interview, a PT test, and a SAC interview. The Field Office Assessment FOA is divided into 3 components. Number 1, a structured panel interview, behavioral/STAR format. Number 2, physical fitness test, PT, pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, and a 1.5-mile run. And number 3, a SAC interview, which is by a supervisory agent in charge, sometimes same day or separate depending on office. Let's look at a user experience. I filled the panel interview a year ago. It was odd. The interviewers seemed annoyed to be there. Almost every answer I gave, they gave a heavy sigh and begrudgingly wrote down my answers. They never looked at me either. And they didn't stand up when I went to shake their hand. If I remember, they didn't even make eye contact when I shook their hands. The entire tone felt cold, no rapport, no energy. I was glad I didn't pass because clearly the fit wasn't there. And user experience number 2. My FOA was 3 parts: panel interview, PT test, then SAC interview if you pass the first 2. The panel itself was straightforward STAR. STAR again are questions based on situation, task, action, and result. So tell me about a time when style questions, okay? I had 10 stories prepared around teamwork, leadership, and tough decisions. The interviewers listened attentively, prompting follow-ups like, what was the result? Or how did that impact the team? They weren't hostile, more professional and curious. Once I finished, they gave me positive feedback and sent me quickly over to the PT test. And user experience number 3. The panel is STAR method. Breathe and answer truthfully. Don't try to make up events. They asked several tell me about a time when, behavioral questions, leadership, conflict resolution, adaptability. I deliberately structured my responses, what situation I faced, the task or role I had, the actions I took, and the results. Sometimes they asked for clarification of what I learned afterward. They seemed to value real-world experiences over gloss. Afterwards, I had the PT test and then the SAC interview, all in the same day. The key advice I got was bring 8 to 10 true stories, understand FAMS, which is the Federal Air Marshal's mission and history, practice STAR, and be yourself. Important. I will provide the exact structured interview questions towards the end of this video with sample answers you can use during your interview. Conditional offer, which is step number 3. If you pass the FOA, you will receive a conditional offer. Upon receiving this offer, you will be required to do a polygraph test, background, and medical evaluation. Step number 4, polygraph exam. Selectees must pass a law enforcement polygraph exam. Travel to the exam site, usually in Atlantic City, New Jersey, or the Washington, D.C. area, is at the applicant's expense. This applies to current TSA employees as well. Unfavorable results may lead to administrative actions, including removal from federal service. See the next step section for polygraph reciprocity details. You can find the link to the TSA polygraph exam information sheet below in the video description. User experience number 1. This was my first time ever applying for a federal job. I took my polygraph on 3 to 4 hours of sleep. The lady that administered my poly was super nice. I ended up having an inconclusive polygraph because they couldn't tell if I was being honest or dishonest on any of the questions they asked me. One of the questions was drug related. I have never done a drug in my life, yet my poly said I was being deceptive. With me having an unfavorable poly, my job was rescinded. User experience number 2. My poly went super smooth, very laid back. We went through the background form, did the test, chatted a bit. I waited about 15 minutes and was told that it all looked good. I passed. Step number 5, background and medical evaluation. The medical and background checks are standard across the board for all TSA positions. The medical evaluation includes but is not limited to a physical exam, color vision test, distant vision test, and hearing exam. During the federal drug test, your urine sample cannot test positive for illegal drugs, including marijuana. There is a lot of information covered about the medical evaluation, so I have provided a link to the official TSA medical requirements PDF in the description below this video. During this process, you will be required to complete the following: complete an electronic SF-86 National Security Questionnaire, schedule and complete fingerprinting appointment, complete a credit and criminal history record check. You can find a link to the credit and criminal history record guide below this video. In this guide, you will get a complete breakdown of the requirements. Important: this position is designated as critical sensitive. Completion of a full field investigation is required. Applicants must be able to obtain and maintain a top secret security clearance. Step number 6, training, FAMTP, and probation. Federal Air Marshals undergo a rigorous 2-stage training program totaling about 22 weeks. Phase 1, basic law enforcement training, 12 weeks at FLETC, either Artesia, New Mexico, or Glencoe, GA, covering constitutional law, firearms, fitness, defensive tactics, behavioral observation, investigative techniques, and emergency medicine. As one FAM candidate shared, at the academy, you will shoot until you are tired of shooting. They will teach you. And phase number 2, specialized FAM training, which is 10 weeks at the Federal Air Marshals Training Center in Atlantic City, New Jersey, focusing on advanced marksmanship, close quarters combat, and self-defense tailored to aircraft and environments. Once hired and trained, new FAMs, which is Federal Air Marshals, enter a 1-year probationary period. User experience number 1. The 22-week Federal Air Marshals training program was the most intense experience of my career. The first 7 weeks at FLETC covered legal training, defensive tactics, and firearms. Tough, especially without a law enforcement background, but they train you from scratch. The final 15 weeks in the FAM specific phase were next level. Daily shooting, in-flight simulations, and aircrew tactics pushed everyone hard. Even those with no firearm experience were passing thanks to top-notch instructors. If you stay focused and committed, it's doable, but is designed to weed out anyone who isn't all in. User experience number 2. Federal Air Marshals training program is 22 weeks of full-on commitment, mentally and physically. The first half at FLETC felt like a crash course in federal law enforcement fundamentals. You're up early, running, studying, qualifying with your firearm, and constantly evaluated. The second half, the FAM-specific portion, is where they really separate those who can handle the job from those who can't. You're dealing with realistic in-flight situations, learning air marshal tactics, surveillance detection, and close quarters engagement. The firearms training ramps up significantly. One of the biggest surprises was how much emphasis they put on mindset and endurance. It's not just about being good with the gun. It's about being alert, blending in, and staying ready 24/7. They told us from the start, we don't graduate everyone, and they mean it. Some dropped due to academics, some couldn't keep up physically, but if you can't push through the 22 weeks, you'll come out a completely different person. So now let's look at some of the law enforcement officer career paths within the TSA. So Federal Air Marshal, which is where you'll start. The Federal Air Marshals FAMs perform a critical role in securing the nation's transportation system as part of the TSA mission. Then you can move into the Supervisory Federal Air Marshal SFAM. SFAMs are responsible for directing the work of subordinate Federal Air Marshals and perform supervisory duties including operational and administrative assignments. After, you can move into the Assistant Supervisory Air Marshal in Charge, ASAC. ASAC serve as program managers and or field managers responsible for developing and managing effective law enforcement security programs, establishing and maintaining relationships with federal, state, and local law enforcement officials, and communicating their assigned office's goals and objectives. After the Assistant Supervisory Air Marshal, you get into the Supervisory Air Marshal in Charge, which is SAC. So SAC serve as executives and or senior managers responsible for providing senior level leadership, overseeing the overall planning, direction, and coordination or operations and law enforcement of security programs. Now, just here's a quick note. The law enforcement route also has other career paths after the Federal Air Marshal FAM. For example, Federal Air Marshal operational duties and criminal investigation position. Visit the official TSA law enforcement website to learn more. Link in the description below. Number 6, let's look at the mission support roles within the TSA. As the administrative branch of the TSA, mission support keeps TSA's internal operations running efficiently. Professional opportunities are available across multiple fields, such as intelligence, communications, engineering, and more. Eligibility. Here's the eligibility. Please pause the video and take a look reading over them. I will go through some of them right now. Number 1, U.S. citizen or national. Number 5, background check and drug screening may be required per DHS drug-free workplace plan. Ethics and compliance. All employees must follow strict government ethics rules and obtain approval for any outside employment or business activity. Bargaining unit. The position is represented by the National Treasury Employees Union, NTEU. Local commuting area requirement. Applicants must live within a reasonable commuting distance to the duty station based on their current or temporary duty location. Now in this next section, I'll jump right into the mission support career paths. Now the exact tests that are required to get into mission support is not known, but a majority of times what would happen is that you would usually be hired internally from either a TSO role or a FAMS role. So it is a progressive journey within the TSA. So a lot of the people working within the mission support roles are federal air marshals or transportation security officers who've passed the medical evaluation and background clearance, and they've progressively gone through different stages within the TSA and have now transitioned into mission support roles. So it's only fair that I discuss some of the career paths available once you get into mission support within the TSA. Communications and social science, public affairs, writing and editing, economics, etc. So the business, legal, finance, and human resources roles, government information administration, program analyst, finance, accounting, etc. You can also get into medical, science, technology, engineering, and math, which is STEM, and safety, medical officer, health, physics, engineering, statistic, operations, research, etc. Compliance, transportation security specialist, transportation assistance, security assistance, personnel security, intelligence, etc. Cyber, you can also get into roles with cyber intelligence analyst, transportation security specialist, information technology specialist, transportation security inspector, etc. And finally, let's look at number 7, getting into the executive roles within the TSA. Summary. The executive leadership at the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, plays a strategic and oversight role in advancing national transportation security. These leaders are responsible for shaping policy, guiding organizational priorities, and ensuring the agency's mission is fulfilled effectively and ethically. They manage large-scale programs, oversee high-level decision-making, and lead cross-functional teams across aviation, surface transportation, law enforcement, and cybersecurity. Important. I will not be going into the executive positions further because it usually involves years of experience in the TSA, and as you transition into different roles within the TSA, you will be educated, mentored, and trained to transition into these executive roles throughout the years. So now, let's look at some of the TSO interview questions, all positions. Now, these are the questions that you will be asked, and I did gather them by doing a lot of research online and just reading what people were saying within the forums, reaching out to candidates who've gone through the interview process. Now, just to let you know, most of these questions are going to be behavioral based, which do require the STAR method to be answered. And now the STAR method again stands for situation, task, action, and result. Now, what I will do is go over 3 or 4 of them within this video just so you get a better understanding of how to answer them. And I'll also provide you a sample answer for each. But just to give you a good understanding, some of the questions are: why do you want to work for the TSA? What makes you a good fit for this role? Number 5, how do you stay focused and alert during long, repetitive tasks? Number 8, tell us about a time you made a mistake at work. What happened and what did you learn? Number 11, how do you handle performing tedious tasks with little immediate feedback? Let's look at number 12. Tell us about a time you followed a procedure precisely to avoid errors. Number 15, how do you maintain fairness and professionalism in interactions with strangers? Number 17, what strategies do you use to stay vigilant and alert during your shift? And number 18, do you have any questions for us? Now in the guide, I will provide you some amazing questions you can actually ask the hiring manager when it's time for your interview. Now I've answered all of these questions within the guide. However, I will go over 3 to 4 questions right now in the video so you get a better understanding of why hiring managers ask you these questions, and then I will provide you with a high converting sample answer that you can use in your interview. Okay, so let's look over 3 to 4 questions. Question number 1. Tell us about a time you worked as part of a team to solve a difficult problem. At TSA, strong teamwork is non-negotiable. Officers work in fast-paced environments where smooth coordination is essential for national security and passenger safety. Hiring managers want to know that you're someone who doesn't just get along with others, but actively collaborates, communicates clearly, and contributes meaningfully when challenges arise. They're especially interested in how you step up during stressful or uncertain moments, whether you show initiative, adapt quickly, and help the team move forward. Let's use the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result to answer this question. Situation. While working at a retail store during a major holiday sale, our checkout system crashed during one of the busiest times of the day. There were long lines, customers were frustrated, and tension was building. Task. As part of the front-end team, I had to work with my coworkers to find a way to keep things moving and prevent customers from walking out or leaving angry reviews. Action. I quickly suggested we switch to manual price entry. One coworker looked up prices on a tablet, another handled handwritten receipts, and I focused on keeping the line orderly and customers calm. I explained the situation to each customer and offered small coupons for their patience when available. We stayed in constant communication and rotated roles every 15 minutes to avoid burnout. And finally, result. Even though the system was down for nearly an hour, we managed to continue serving customers with very few complaints. Our manager praised us for taking initiative and problem solving on the spot. That day showed me how much stronger a team can be when everyone stays calm, communicates, and supports each other under pressure. Question number 2. Tell us about a time you made a mistake at work. What happened and what did you learn? Mistakes are inevitable, even in highly structured environments like TSA. What matters is how you respond. Are you accountable? Do you learn from it? Can you fix it without blaming others? Hiring managers ask this to see if you're honest about your shortcomings and capable of self-improvement. They're not expecting perfection, but they are looking for maturity, integrity, and a willingness to learn. Let's use the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result to answer this question. Situation. While working as a grocery store clerk, I was responsible for returning items left behind at the register to the appropriate aisles. One evening, I accidentally placed a refrigerated item, some yogurt, on a dry goods shelf and forgot about it. Task. I needed to correct the mistake and take responsibility once it was discovered during closing rounds. Action. As soon as I realized what I had done, I informed my supervisor. I took full responsibility, explained that I had been distracted by a last-minute customer question, and offered to double-check all returns for the night. I also recommended that we start using small return baskets to keep cold and dry items separated until reshelved. And finally, result. My supervisor appreciated the honesty and liked the solution I proposed. From then on, we used the basket system store-wide. That mistake taught me the importance of attention to detail and how being honest and proactive when things go wrong builds trust, even more than never making a mistake in the first place. Question number 3. If faced with a distracted or upset passenger, how would you de-escalate the situation? TSOs regularly deal with anxious, angry, or distracted passengers, especially during delays, missed flights, or stressful travel moments. This question tests your emotional intelligence, self-control, and verbal communication. TSA hiring managers want to know that you can stay calm, handle confrontation without escalating it, and guide people back toward cooperation, all while still enforcing rules and maintaining safety. It's not just about calming someone down. It's about managing your own tone, body language, and responses under pressure. Let's use the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result to answer this question. Situation. When I worked as a customer service associate at a cell phone store, A customer came in upset about a billing error that had charged them for data they didn't use. They were frustrated and speaking loudly in front of others. Task: I had to de-escalate the situation quickly, resolve their concern, and prevent it from turning into a bigger issue. Action: I maintained eye contact, lowered my voice, and said, I understand why you're upset, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you fix this today. I invited them to step to a quieter area so we could talk without the crowd. I listened closely, took notes, and repeated back what they said to show I understood. I then reviewed their account, discovered a technical glitch, and processed a credit. I stayed calm and respectful throughout the interaction. And finally, result: the customer calmed down quickly, thanked me for taking the time to listen, and left satisfied with the resolution. Later that week, they even returned to purchase accessories and asked to work with me again. That experience taught me that most upset people just want to feel heard and respected. Here's the final sample question. Question number 4. What makes you a good fit for this role? This question helps TSA assess how well your experience, personality, and attitude match the expectations of a transportation security officer. They're not just looking for experience. They want people who are dependable, observant, respectful, and capable of maintaining composure while following procedures. I think I'm a strong fit for this role because I'm someone who takes direction seriously, stays calm under pressure, and believes in treating people fairly, no matter who they are. In my past jobs, I've worked long shifts, handled difficult customers, and followed strict company policies without cutting corners. I understand how important attention to detail is, especially when it comes to safety. I'm not afraid of repetitive tasks, and I stay focused even when things get slow. I also care about showing respect to the public while still enforcing the rules. I know that combination, firm but respectful, is a big part of being a successful TSO. Great. So now that we went over some of the questions that will be asked during your interview, and I did provide the reason that hiring managers do ask you that specific question, and I did provide an answer to go along with it, I just want to now show you the guide that is available for download. I did include some additional resources. For example, the link right here will take you to the main job site of the TSA. Here's a link to the background requirements, the TSO application process, the TSO medical requirements link, which will take you right to the page of the medical requirements, the TSO background requirements link, which takes you to the page of all the background requirements, and then the law enforcement polygraph sheet, where you can learn more about the polygraph test and what are the requirements and how to pass the polygraph test, what they're looking for during that test, okay? With these additional resources, I have provided all 18 sample questions, and each one will include an answer. Before the answer, I will give you a brief introduction to the question and tell you exactly why hiring managers ask you the question, so you have a better understanding on how to structure your answer and how to apply the STAR method to your answer when it comes time for your interview. So here are all 18 questions right here with answers all the way down to number 18, which is, do you have any questions for us? I have provided some questions that you can ask the hiring manager. I have left a link to this guide below in the video description. Now, when you do click that link, you will be redirected to a page. Now, all I ask is right here that you support my channel by making a minimum donation of $3. When you make this donation, you will be able to download the guide. Now, it took some work and some effort to put this together, and I hope that you really enjoyed everything I've put together for you. And if you can support my channel, it's a minimum of $3 up to anywhere up to $20. Your donation and your support allows me to keep doing what I do, and that's provide valuable information to all of you and even answer your questions. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment box below and I will find an answer for you. Okay, so I would really appreciate it. So don't forget to download the guide, or just look at it as supporting my channel, and in return I will give you this guide with all the answers to help you land your dream job. I wish you nothing but good luck on the application process and throughout every single step of the hiring process. Keep your head up, good luck, keep smiling.